Okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. All right, everybody. Welcome back to day 35, I believe, let me see. Yeah, day 35 of the Weekly Profit. My name is Jack Hayes. I am your host, and I'm the founder of Profit Jack Enterprises. What is the goal today? Today is the personal episode. I've been really meaning to do this. I think it's a long time coming. I've been more consistent with the podcast than I've ever been. I've been more consistent with the business than I've ever been. And it's still early. I still feel like I've only had even a solid, 6-8 months or maybe a little longer, but essentially it comes in waves as I talk about, and we'll talk about the road to entrepreneurship and all that on here today. There's a lot to kind of go through, but there's a lot of highs and lows. And so now I just kind of feel like it's been pretty consistent as far as me being consistent with myself, and then also consistent in the intentional value I've been bringing and actually feeling a little reciprocated by it. So really excited to do this. And yeah, with that, I want to start today with something I wrote back on day 32. So just like earlier this week, I thought it'd be a really cool way to open the show, because it was probably on a day where I just was at felt like I was on a very low point, and it was just something I wrote that helped me get through it, and now it kind of helped me get through the week. So here's kind of how I want to open this show today. Go over a couple of quotes that I was sent this morning, and then we're going to go into social circle building, background info, who I am, why I'm even here, talk about my business expertise a little bit, and then some fun questions, who are my dream guests, what I'm looking for in a relationship, how I want to be remembered. I'm just kind of going down the list. We'll get into all of that. You're going to get the full Jack Hayes story today. So anyway, back to love how this opens. Back to the basics with bigger thinking. Eliminate the decision-making process. You know exactly how you need to feel. You are right where you need to be. Slow down, enjoy the process. Remember, the only true success in life is the freedom to keep pursuing it. You are happy, healthy, and wealthy. The universe is abundant with all that you need. I am rewarded for bigger thinking. And then I just wrote down my goals, $100,000 per month, college debt free, actively traveling the world. All things that are 150,000% within my control. To quote my favorite teacher, as I always like to say it, she told me this before I graduated: if it is to be, it is up to me. And you can feel it in my voice. I really take that to heart. And it's something that's really helped me just stay consistent. If I'm being totally honest, what is it that it helps me do? It helps me stay consistent, which helps me, feel better about myself, which helps me help other people, which again, it's a win-win when you're consistent. The next thing I kind of want to read, and I was sent this morning actually by my mother. So it's pretty cool. And she kind of sent me this paragraph from a book. It said, ask yourself, what is it that makes me come alive? Whatever that thing was or is now is the thing that deserves your full attention. It doesn't matter whether or not it seems practical. Keep doing it and think about it for no reason other than that it feels good. Whatever you focus your attention on will grow. Your focused attention is your superpower as a human being. The more focused attention, the bigger importance. So kind of cut off there, but you get the gist of it. So now we've had a little wisdom kind of intro, and I think it was healthy and it was good, and that was something I definitely needed to do. I hope everyone's kind of in a good place now to get through, listen to the rest of this. And I now kind of want to dive into the podcast a little bit. Let's talk about the Weekly Profit, right? How did I start it? Why am I doing it? Why do people even care that I have it? 2019, 2020, I'd say pandemic. I was back home in Saint Augustine. I had just basically finished my freshman year of college. And for those of you that don't know, I went to Nova Southeastern University. I was a track athlete, and I was also in the Huizenga Business Academy. And that was a big reason I went down there. And so anyway, in March, we get sent home. I'm stuck on the Bridge of Lions, as the St. Augustine people know. And I just had this idea. I always have, I'd had this business Profit Jack that I'd started, when I was 17, 18, and it had its ups and downs, but it gave me an interest in business, and I loved talking about it and allowed me to connect with a lot of cool people. So I was like, you know what, let me interview the kids that gave me like the credit in high school, that gave me that also started businesses, maybe because I had a business, but maybe not. I felt like I always had a little bit of an influence on, people realizing they could do it at that age. So I want to interview these people. I had, the first season of the Weekly Prophet, I had, a kid named Sean Liberty. He was an artist. I had Peyton LeBlanc, owner of Ultra Rare, the Carey twins. For anyone that's into broadcasting, it's Harry Carey's great grandchildren. And it was such a cool experience. So now, went to college. Fast forward to this year, why I brought back the podcast in 2022, about October. I realized, like, kind of going back to what that quote says, like, do whatever makes you feel alive simply because it feels good. I was coming through a time where I didn't feel like myself. It wasn't that nothing was necessarily happening, but I was missing something. I was like working behind the scenes, but also like I just felt like I had so much to give, and I just don't know what the pause was on the podcast. And maybe I kind of felt like I didn't feel justified in sharing my experience yet. And that's okay. I think you have to be honest with yourself, right? Like, it was but I did know it made me feel alive, and I stopped giving a shit what people thought. And I was like, dude, the only person you have to prove it to is you. I know my network has value, which we'll get into. I want to talk about the social circle building, kind of how I've been able to build a pretty high value network with, not like I have 10,000 followers or anything. And yeah, I was like, you know what, dude, that's what makes me feel good. Start doing that. Find people that, would appreciate that. And it was such a blessing because I had found this guy, Ibrahim Turner, who was really like, I've been watching his content a little bit, and it had been helping me with my mental state. He's got this program called the 5D Mentor. It's about how your internal state is your external reality. And I was like, he'd be a great first guest. Let me just send a DM on a limb and, see what he says. He had 10,000 more followers than I did, but you just never know. And yeah, I think I just struck up a conversation with him about one of the videos, and then asked him if, he asked me actually. He said something like he'd love to come on my show, and I had just really brought it back, and I was like, oh wow, okay. So he was one of the first big guests to start the year. From that, I went into the digital marketing world a little bit. We'll talk about this, but I follow this guy Arlen. He's been a big influence on me as far as the development years now, 18 to 22, now I think he's 25, 26. But talking about his experience as an entrepreneur in college, but always having this more of the sense of the freedom side of entrepreneurship. He always had this itch, he had to build his own thing, and that we were here to create, and we 100% are. And I really bought into that level of thinking because it helped me to start creating my reality that I have now, but I'm, obviously building. And I really liked it. He has this program called Tribe. You guys should totally check it out. It teaches you basically how to, build a social circle from scratch, and puts you around a lot of high value men and women. But he had a lot of guys, all the guys in there, they're very high value men and women. And I just kind of was going through, I was like, oh, this guy would be a good guest, was also in the program. And we had a really great conversation. And from that, I was like, all right, I like this. These guys are this world is a lot more my style. I like the digital nomads, the people the entrepreneurs in 2023 and 2022 are just so different than the entrepreneurs from, I say this all the time, from the 60s to the 2000s to the 2010s. It's just a different decade, and it's a different level of thinking. We have all this information that we've been trained with that people didn't have, in previous times. And it's not to say I think it does add wisdom, but as far as we just have access, it's crazy the cool conversations I'm able to have, because now I'm talking to people that have shared very similar experiences to me. We've all felt, everyone that I have on the show has one thing in common with me. And it is, if I had to think about that, it comes down to the fact that they're not afraid to think differently. They're people that are 100% invested in themselves, or at least care about working to be invested in themselves. And they all have that innate instinct to constantly be creating themselves and constantly innovating like on them and not under the jurisdiction of anyone else. So that's a long story short why I brought the podcast back. I started having those conversations. Now we get to a point where I've just had such a cool like experience. And selfishly, I love how it's a networking tool, and I hope this kind of brings some value to anybody watching this. If you are thinking about starting a podcast, let me get into that a little bit. How do I do it? So easy. Like it's so simple. You have to ask. A lot of people who are like, oh, the podcast is a lot of work. Type into Google, seriously, sit down at your computer, type into Google and ask that question. Is a podcast hard to start? Put whatever limiting beliefs you have into Google, or as I like to talk about, you just put whatever limiting beliefs you have in chatbot or AI and see what it says. You have the answers. Like we just talked about, like if it is to be, it's up to me. You have the answers. This information age, this digital age, you have the answers. There's no more excuse of like, I don't know how to do it. You haven't even tried. You haven't tried to train. Be honest, have you actually tried to start a podcast? Do you really think it's a lot of work? Or like, do you really know it's a lot of work? Like people, it mind boggles me. You just have to start, right? Like you just have to start. But anyway, here's how you start, right? Riverside FM. I love it. You can record a podcast from anywhere. 3 camera angles. So it's you, your guest, and then one of both of you, if you have multiple guests, whatever. It does the audio and video correction for you. So if you don't have like a nice camera setup, crazy nice microphone setup, like that shouldn't hold you back. You can do exactly what I'm doing right now on a mic, on a desk in my apartment room, recording to the masses, right? So, that's how you get started with the podcast. Download Riverside, start talking, set out, I plan I don't like plan every episode, but I brainstorm. What do I want to talk about? Have some sort of direction. And yeah, just start shooting and then invite others that you want to have conversations with. My thing was like, I'm having all these conversations for business with high level entrepreneurs. Like, let's make it intentional. Like, let's just meet. I can do this once, twice, 3 times a week. And then you just sit down, record, invite them. You then can take this video and go to a site I like to use called Anchor FM. So Riverside for video recording, audio, etc. And then go to Riverside. You just take this file, you can upload it to Riverside, and you can upload a video episode, or you can just take the audio out and upload the audio. And then you can record an extra intro on Riverside. You can do a lot of different things, and they'll distribute it for you to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And then if you're like me, simple scales, take this video you just made, cut it into, like we do at our agency, 21 clips, post them 3 times a day to YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, the same videos that you clipped. I recommend adding captions. And that's how that's how you can consistently show up, on these platforms, on the social media game. Like we'll talk about it with your podcast by not, like we say, like not taking up a ton of your time, right? It only takes me, if you guys want me to be really, really honest with you, it takes me an hour to set up and record. It takes me another hour to edit, and just really cutting clips from that, or you can outsource that. I prefer to do my own clips, and then another hour to schedule posts. And that's pretty realistic. About 3 hours a week. You can do this. Shooting multiple episodes is not difficult. I've shot multiple episodes in a day. If you talk to like Adam 22, Joe Rogan, those guys are often on, 3 episode days, 5 days a week. Like, but you see why who they are. That's the difference. The difference between, like I've used this example before, right? The difference between Justin Bieber being Justin Bieber and you being you is Justin Bieber told a lot of people and backed it up with a lot of proof that he was Justin Bieber and that he had these talents. He didn't look for approval from anyone else. He said, "This is who I am," and that's where he got to where he's got. Like it's so funny. I bring up like a Justin Bieber reference, but it's like something people can totally relate to. Why did that 16-year-old kid from the side of the street in Canada get to be this guy? It's because he told everyone that's who he was. And he backed it up, like Alex Hormozi says. create an undeniable stack of proof that shows you are who you say you are, and you'll never have self-doubt in your life. And it's okay if you're not there. Like if you don't have the proof, that's fine. Sit down and get to work. Right? Sit down and make take a bunch of intentional action. And that's another reason with the podcast. I love it. It's a good way for me to measure my consistency. Just even sitting here, a Saturday, pretty, we do what we do on Friday nights. And cranking this out. I'm going to record, edit, write this whole thing in 24 hours. Okay. So that was like a 16, 20 minute, how does the podcast start? Little wisdom, do our thing. And you got to know a little bit about me, but let's do my full story, right? Start all the way back at the beginning. Grew up in I was born and raised in Saint Augustine, Florida. It's, for those of you that don't know, it is considered the nation's oldest city. It's up in North Florida by 30 minutes south of Jacksonville, and a little by the beach. Pretty cool tourist town. Super, super, super blessed to grow up there. I was never really bored. Really came up in humble beginnings. I had an older sister, Stella, and a younger brother, Luke. And it was the five of us with usually 2 dogs. Now we have 3 dogs. And growing up in a small town, usually people from St. Augustine, they grow up there, then their kids grow up there, then further generations grow up there. There's a lot of history, and it's super cool, and it's super valuable, but it is a place where you need to it's easy to get comfortable, and it's not a problem to be comfortable there if that's who you are, but you'll know very quickly if you're someone who needs new experiences, gets bored easily, always have to branch out. You can't trap it's a very easy place to kind of get trapped and a little sidetracked. So, great place to grow up. So thankful for it. But definitely has that small town vibe, right? If that's not you, you need to branch out, and it's never going anywhere. Like I always say, you can always come back. But anyway, grew up a big athlete, started playing baseball when I could walk, 2 years old. Did that until my junior year of high school. I picked up running track and cross country is going really well. I put up some big times and, was a state competitor, and it made a lot of sense for me, as far as getting flash forward, how I got to college. I was recruited for track and field. I also, I had started Profit Jack Enterprises at 17, 18. And basically the business at that time was I was selling stuff for people out of their garage. So I would basically just anything you see on Facebook Marketplace, I was the broker for it, and I would sell these things for people. And the whole idea was, need stuff sold, let me make you money. And it's usually I have a big banner up. And that was my first taste of entrepreneurship, and it was super, super impactful. I scaled that to do we did 150,000 in net sales before I got to college. So when I got to doing college interviews, it helped me a lot to kind of show I had this business experience. I wanted to enter a business school. Nova gave me that opportunity, 3-year program, got my bachelor's degree, ran track for the first 2 years, and it's in Fort Lauderdale. So I've been living in Fort Lauderdale, recently graduated in May. And now we're running the business full time. Like I tell people, man, there's no plan B. I don't work a 9 to 5, I hustle, I do my thing, but, I've always been such a, I'm all in or I'm not in. And I've been half in before, even just being honest, in college, I'm half in. In high school, I was half in, right? Because I got college, because I got school, because, I'm running track, and that 100%, I never realized that was on me, right? I knew what I wanted, and I always had this innate, but I wasn't willing to accept it. And now, post college, it took it away. It takes away the crutch. It takes away okay, dude, you're either going to do this or you're going to have to spend your time working hard for someone else's dream. And, what happens if all I did was ask myself, what happens if I put the 8 hours I would have put in at ballet, or the 8 hours I would have put in a restaurant or whatever per day, right? 30, 40 hours a week into podcast creation, into business, into, scaling my business, into growing a team, into really creating what I've always had in mind for the business, but never always like lacking the freedom to be able to do it. And now it's just a matter of time. Like I tell people, your favorite overnight success did the right thing for 5-10 years before you even knew who they were. And some days I feel like I'm in year 5, right? Like, or I'm in year 4, right? I'm 18, I just turned 22. Some days I feel like I'm in year 4, and some days I feel like I'm in year 1, because it's really year 1 of this is it. Like there is no plan B. There's nothing to crutch on other than the fact that I either show up on a consistent basis or I don't. It's a powerful place to be, man. I don't recommend it for everyone. Like I always tell people, like, it takes a different kind of crazy, or I don't even like to say crazy, but, it's a lot. It's not, every day is not a high. You have some low lows. You can probably hear it in my voice. I've been there, man. Like you ride, like my big focus here is to not ride the highs too high or the lows too low. But in entrepreneurship, you're constantly creating your value, right? If I don't bring value to the world this day, there is no other way. When you have a job, you show up and it's mandated you bring value to the world that day. Why do you feel good after you work? You just gave 8 hours of your time that you could have spent doing other things for yourself to someone else, to provide a value, to provide service, to do something. And that's, in my opinion, business is an exchange of value. So instead of, yes, this is what 99% of people do, is they don't want to make the decision of how do I create value. It's not easy. I'm doing it right now, but it's not easy. I don't say this, I don't say it's necessarily easy, but it is in you. And it's more about just accepting the fact that you have the knowledge and you're either willing to share it or you're not, or you're willing to create it or you're not, and you're willing to start on square one or you're not. Or like you said, there's nothing wrong with going to an established business. And the reason, you have that consistency, the reason you have that consistent pay, the reason you have that consistent job is because that business has been being built for 10, 20, 30, 40 fucking years, right? They've done the same thing the right way for longer than a 5-10 year span. So just to I'm glad that that's where the story kind of took, as far as, talking about who I am and what I'm doing now, because it's a very realistic account. And my whole purpose for even creating content is so that people get a firsthand look of like, this is more of the reality, right? Showcase people in the process. If I would have waited until, I had the $100,000 a month goal, until I had the crazy cars, until I was buying my mom a house to tell everyone how I did it, it wouldn't be, I've always had the impression it just wouldn't be a real account. I think this is as authentic as we get. I planned this whole episode and I've talked about, I'd say like the gist of it, but definitely not as many, like it definitely wasn't as specific and planned out and written as I would have expected, but I don't, it doesn't bother me. I think I've gotten a lot of great stuff into this in the first 25 minutes, because it's people that are in the journey. Like I'm someone that's in the journey, in the process. My goal is to have, people smart. I always want to have people on the podcast that are smarter than me, that are going to the podcast is not necessarily for me to showcase, who I am and what I do. This episode is, that's why, I'll probably do one of these every 8 weeks or something. But mainly it's to show, be the platform that gets intelligent people sharing their story and sharing their value so that others can benefit from it. And so that others can replicate what they did and learn from the lessons they had. And, I try to get more people that are more in the process, or that are conscious that they are building and aren't complacent. You don't see me have, you're not going to just see me have anyone on here that, is could do whatever, feels like they can do whatever they want because they have the money, the fame, whatever. And there's no, the drive is different now because they made it. I will never host somebody on this show. So if anyone ever gets the impression that anyone came on the show and talked about it from a complacent state, and those are not necessarily winners in my eyes, I think that's just, as your platform grows, as your freedom grows, continue to use it in intentional ways. And I'm not here to tell anyone how to do that. it's very, very fucking obvious when you are around somebody who's intentional with the actions they're doing and like wants to, be here for the benefit of society. And when somebody is just, all right, I made it, I'm cool, like I never have to work again, and they're not providing value, right? Like you can see it. I don't even know how to describe it, because how do you talk about someone who doesn't provide value? And now that being said, let's talk about the social circle side. So we spent 30 minutes. You guys know who I am. You got an idea of my personality a little bit. Let's talk business. What does the business look like right now? I run a short form content agency. Well, really, I run an organic client acquisition agency. And the way we do that is we help brands create and leverage short form content. So YouTube Shorts gets 15 billion streams a day. Facebook gets 4 billion. Facebook and Instagram Reels get 4 billion streams a day. And TikTok gets roughly 1 billion streams a day. Why anyone is posting pictures if they're a business and wants to scale, I have no idea. But usually it's because they feel like they don't have the time to make short videos, or they don't have the time to make videos of like them actually being within the business and like showcasing what they're doing. So we've created a process that helps business owners do that in 60 minutes per month, and we structure it so that it's viral. So we're not promising virality. We're just saying our team is coming into, we have a day one interview with all of our clients, and we're coming into that interview with viral content ideas, with stuff that when we sit down and we cut up our interview of their clips, talking about their expertise, talking about their business, talking about, their current ventures, we'll know the hooks are there, and that there's a science to creating good content, and we'll know that that's there. And we bring that to them, and then we post it, cut it, and manage it across 3 platforms. And they never have to, they literally sit down with us once a month, and they put, all our business owners put as much effort in as they want. But we're there to automate the process and make sure content is posted on a daily basis. And naturally you're going to build an audience, which means you're going to get more organic clients, to your offer. And, we're building out the second half of that, which I'm not going to talk about too much on here. It's private business and might be my biggest project yet. So that's all I'm going to say on that. But it plays along the same thing. It plays along organic client acquisition and just creating ways for people to make money, as Prophet Jack has always done and just naturally been able to continue to do, if that made sense. Social circle. I always like to say this: you don't need 100,000 followers to have friends. Okay, you don't need 100,000 followers to interview the top people. You don't need 1 million people to like your stuff to bring value to other people who just, they seem like they have higher social status. It's just not the case. First thing I'll say on that, check your Instagram accounts of the people that you're romanticizing over working with. Not all the time are the followers even real. The content might be good, but check it, see how many real accounts actually follow them. And that alone should tell you that follower counts don't matter. Me personally, I don't know if I'll be able to pop it up on the screen. I have 1,800 followers on Instagram. A lot of my top clients or top friends from Instagram all have 20. They have more than 20 times that. Why do they work with me? Because I approach them in the right way. Because I bring value to them. Because I consistently bring praise to what they're doing, and I'm always I'm actively engaging with the value they bring to the table. A lot of people they want to talk to celebrities. They want to talk to these people in high value rooms, but they don't want to bring value to them. This goes for social circles, for building the right social circle. This goes for networking. It's the same thing. Okay. A lot of my business, people I do business with, I always tell them I'd like this to turn into a friendship. It's not going to be there on day one. You don't meet anyone on day one or necessarily best friends with them. But if we consistently provide value to each other, like you do in a friendship, we will have a positive relationship. And that's how you become friends with extremely high value people, celebrities, anyone you want to meet. I love to quote this book by Dale Carnegie, that it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Literally, it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Okay. It was written in the 1930s. And the big theme of that book, be lavish in your praise and hearty in your appropriation. What does that mean? Be lavish in your praise and be lavish in your praise and hearty in your appropriation. That means provide in even more value when you're praising somebody and complimenting them. Like make them be very intentional, be specific with what you're talking about, use names, it's a big thing. And just really mean it when you give someone praise. Don't just like ask someone how their day is to be in conversation. Like, oh, what was the best part of your day? Simple trick, right? Like, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm good. Like, hey, what about you? What was the best part of your day? Like, give a shit. I know it sounds crazy. Give a shit. Okay. And then when you're on the other side, appropriation, like hearty in your appropriation, when you're giving constructive criticism, come from the same place you were giving the praise. Come from the same area of kindness and be more suggestive in your criticism. Suggest a direction, suggest a solution, but do not say anything with the expectation to change the other person's behavior. What you say, you having that feeling of expecting them to change will destroy your relationship. They will not take the criticism properly. And it's not you don't want to come at it with conflict or negativity. You want to lead with a compliment, right? Like, if it's a team member, right? Hey, Sally, you've been doing I don't know why I use that, but let's use James. Hey, James, you've been doing a great job on X, Y, and Z. Do you think it would be a little more, do you think it would be more productive if you just, did, A, B, and C? Like, what do you think? Or what are your thoughts on love what you're doing right now. What are your thoughts if we did it this way? Be suggestive. Get them talking about it. Allow people to come to their solutions. And that's all you got to do. Like you want to influence, you can influence change, but you can't expect it, I think is the best way to put that. It's okay to influence change, but come from the same place of kindness. Lead with, remind them that they're doing a great job. Remind them that what they're doing is not wrong. Just suggest that there could be another way to do it, or ask them if they've thought about another way to do it. Hey, have you thought about this? And just have this thought. And you change the whole dynamic, man. And you consistently do that, you're not going to have a lot of enemies, man. Like you're really not, men or women, obviously. So how do you build a social circle? Always bring value, be lavish in your praise, hearty in your appropriation, and simply give a shit. Anyone you want to talk to, praise them, compliment them, be specific, and then, engage in their, like how they create value. How do they find out how they create value? Engage in that, get them talking about it. Just show that, you care, and you should care. Why do you want to be friends with these people if you don't care about how they bring value to the world? Right. And that's really it. How to win friends and influence people. Always bring value, be lavish in your praise and hearty in your appropriation. For me, what do high value people look like? So typically when I'm, I like to keep my circle pretty tight. I have 5, just get some more info here. I have 5, I have 6 to 10 really close friends down in Fort Lauderdale. I don't know the exact number. So there's about, let's be generous. It's 10, there's 10 very solid people I've been blessed to have, I'm blessed to have in my life on a consistent basis. They all know who they are. So if they're still in this, very much appreciate it. And then back home, I stay in touch with probably one or two people that live in Saint Augustine full time. Do I stay in touch with them on a consistent basis? And then probably 4 or 5 others, that are between like Saint Augustine and Orlando, kind of like also doing their thing. What do all these people have in common? They're motivated. They have purpose. They're building something. These are things that bring value to my life. I want to be around winners. These are not, super passive people. Not everyone's perfect, but they're not super passive people. They're all focused on something. And they understand that we're here to build, develop, and, we need to go our own ways in order to create the highest version of ourselves. So we're not dependent on each other. But if we don't talk for 2 months, it's not the end of the world. The dynamic doesn't change. Those are like really real friends. We check in with each other. That's one thing. You want to identify if you're around high value people right now. How often do your friends check in on you? If they haven't, ask yourself how often you check in on them. That's a really big, big key. Cause I heard that once and I was like, wow, man, like nobody really they don't really check in on, none of my tight friends really check in on me. But I asked myself that question then. And I was like, but do you check in on them? When was the last time you called them and said, asked them how they were doing? Right. I started doing that. What do you know? I call one person, 3 others call me throughout the week. Hey, Jack, how's it going? Just want to check in, make sure you're good. Makes you feel good. And it makes you feel good because I followed a principle that I was preaching but not practicing, right? That's why it made me feel good. So, my social circle, I have 10 to 20 close friends. And that's, going to college and going through this. And then I have a lot of people who really respect me and I really respect, and we're just not on the level of necessarily, I have their back, but am I going to I don't know how to explain it. It's not on that deeper level. And it's hard to do. I'd say, I probably stand out with the amount that I can say, I have, as far as tight friends. And I don't say that to be cocky or be oh, I'm this big social butterfly. I just think, it's kind of important to me. I like having the support aspect of it, but there's probably not a ton of people who get to, can really say that. I also just, on that end of it, again, how often have you tried? These are relationships I've built over the last 3 years since I got to college, literal day ones. And yeah, there's been in and outs, but, the consistent core has been there. And you can do that. You can do that anywhere. So, kind of the next place I want to go with this, I think we kind of covered the social circle thing. Let's talk about habits. What do I do on a daily basis that brings me success, right? Or whatever your version of success is. If you think I'm successful, if you think I'm not at all, I really like I said, it's all perspective. I don't frankly give a shit if anyone, thinks that I'm super, super successful or not. We're all going to have our own perspectives of that. There's always somebody that's above you and there's always somebody that's, quote unquote below you or wishes they were in your spot is kind of the way I like to say it. But habits. Every morning I go for a walk as soon as I wake up, usually the first thing I do. Recently started doing that. Habits can change, but the idea is, here's a way better way to put it. Sorry. Habits. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., it's about me. Okay. It's pretty much all about me. Right. And if you can, that just means if I wake up at 7, if I wake up at 8, I'm not a slave to it. I know in my head, I do not book really any meetings before 10 a.m. So that's that's the first step to creating good habits. You have to block out time to actually participate in them, or you're not going to do them. So, excuse me. Big thing with habits. You have to block out time to actually do them. Morning's the easiest, but again, everybody has different schedules. If you're in a 9 to 5, I'll tell you, go follow my sister on TikTok. Shout out Stella. Go follow Stella Hayes on TikTok. She does her 5 to 9 videos. She works a 9 to 5, and then at 5 p.m., she takes the time to herself. She goes for a run. She gets food with a friend. She makes dinner, does her shopping, does whatever from 5 to 9. And then, in the morning, wakes up and, goes to work. And that's super cool, right? For me, I have a little different schedule, right? I make my own schedule, but I block out 6 to 10 is me time. 10 to 2 is brand growth and, deep work. I'm really about to start implementing this deep work scenario in my life. That's 4 hours where I know it's all about the business and it's literally about nothing else. And then usually 3 p.m., that is when I'll take a break. So I'll usually go to a pool with a friend or go to the beach, just go play basketball, take that another hour to myself. So it's like time to myself, deep work, another break. And I'll usually do that from 3 to 5, just depending on what the day looks like, or I'll have meetings between that time. So then between 3 and 7 is basically my open time for taking appointments, sales calls, meetings, stuff like that. So I guess I just gave you a day in the life, but positive habits that I do on a daily basis to have that day in the life, right? To where like I'm able to block out 4 hours in the morning, deep work for 4 hours, and then, have meetings at the end of the day. Is I walking, cold shower, reading, pretty much my 3 non-negotiables, and the gym. Walking, reading, cold shower, gym. Those are 4 things that I do them every single day in one facet or another. Again, like I know it sounds crazy. It's not specific habits that lead to success. It's the little things that really do. Just doing those 4 things on a consistent basis. I know they put my head in a good place, and then it's totally up to the universe to decide what happens that day. Anything that allows you to positively trust your intuition or put your mind in a good state to trust yourself is the right decision. And that's all I'll say on that. So whatever that is for you, if you like to write, maybe you should run every morning. Goggins runs, I guess he runs every morning, right? Like 4 or 5 or 10 miles or some shit. That's what he does to put his mind in the place to go do what he does on a daily basis. I couldn't even I do so many things on a daily basis, like the life of an entrepreneur, but anyone in general, if you really think about it, you can't just plan every step of your day, but you can block out time to where this is where my focus is going to be. And then this is where my focus is going to be. And then my focus is going to be here. And if you do them in the right kind of way, you want to just do it in the way that puts you in the highest version of yourself every single time. So you want to be the highest version of yourself in the morning, go to bed on time. You want to be the highest version of yourself during deep work or during your 9 to 5, make sure you take care of your habits in the morning. You want to have, positive sales calls and a productive evening, then make sure your day before it is productive. You'll build that momentum. So I just kind of broke down a lot there, but essentially simple habits that you can replicate if you want, but it's really just about taking time to yourself, taking time to your business or your career, and then, the end of the day, just being fill it with positive intention. So intentional action, sales calls, if you're 9 to 5, 5 to 9, take advantage of that time, right? Just intentional action towards the end of the day. Why do I take cold showers? It releases a chemical. I don't want to butcher it. I think it's called tryptophan, but I could totally be wrong. But essentially, cold showers and hot saunas for 20 minutes, they release a chemical in your body that basically is the most painful, it's your most painful nerve, it's the most painful thing you'll feel all day. It triggers that in a very natural way. And then just naturally throughout the rest of the day, you feel like nothing can really bother you. Going to the gym does it, taking a cold shower does it, and going to a sauna does it. If you can do all 3, before you start your day, I'm telling you, and you just have to try it. Don't just take my word for it. And then complain that it's not working. Actually try it. And you will none of the work you do throughout the day will really feel that bad. It's chemically impossible to feel as much pain as you'd already put yourself through. So if that gets you to go to the gym for the next 7 days, this, 1 hour long personal op is doing its job. So cool. Now let's go. I wrote down this topic on here, escaping the matrix. So how do we do that? And what is the matrix? So when we talk about this, I have to be, I'm not going to be careful with what I say, but I don't religiously just live by religiously preach the subject or educate myself on the actual subject of some people. This is my interpretation of it. And essentially it's that, you have to accept everything. You have to accept the world you came up in. You have to, it basically means it's a way of conditioning your life, right? So to me, the Matrix is a conditioned life. This is what I was told was the right way. And I'm not going to think for myself. I'm just going to follow it, even though it doesn't necessarily make me feel that good. It's normal to just feel like this. So like, I'm just going to I'm not going to make any changes. I kind of like could feel better doing something else, but I'm just going to keep on like doing what the world tells me is okay, or that the world tells me is accepted. And I'm not going to live like any other way. And it's not possible for me to do that. That's wrong. Thinking that it's wrong to think differently is, in my opinion, the Matrix. Like, anyone who just accepts things as they are and doesn't want to make any changes because they think it's societally unacceptable, is trapped in the Matrix. You have the total freedom to you have the freedom to identify what you want. And if you're stuck in a 9-to-5, if you're stuck in college, if you're doing these things and they don't feel like they're bringing the best out of you, then you're never going to have the time. You're never going to have more time than right now to figure out what you want. And you can't go pursue what you want until you identify what you want. So that's a big thing. Don't just take the leap to take the leap. When I quit track because my head on the track every single practice, every single night before I went to bed to wake up at 6 a.m., 6 days a week, was not on track. It was on, how the hell do I build my dream business? How do I'm helping so many people right now, and I don't have the time to put the structures in place to make this sustainable. My head is not 100% at the track, and that's not fair to anyone. So if that's how you feel, then that is when I've identified a new goal, right? I had these goals, and I'd run for so long, and I was hung up on the fact that I put so much work into this thing, and I created this amazing person from running track and field, and I gave people so much happiness by being good at a sport. And like, that's what was like, oh, like, yes, like people care. I feel important to talk about how to win friends and influence people. People love feeling important, right? The greatest gift you can ever give someone is the feeling of importance. So when you find a way to get that, you should consistently pursue it, and that's what makes you feel good. That's why you love doing it. And, track it hit a wall with me where I didn't feel like I thought I always had to just do that to bring my value. And I realized I could do what I really felt like I was here to do. And that's, make people money, but build and create and do things that light the fire and kind of make me really happy. So yeah, like escaping the Matrix, don't take the leap until, you have that new goal in mind or a plan to like really start finding yourself. And don't think it's people overcomplicate. Like, here's where, again, I'm simplifying this for myself and for everyone else. If you're in college right now and you are like, I want to do international business, but you believe that you have to finish school, finish your degree, go work an internship for free for 2 years, and then do international business because that's what's okay, and that's what a lot of people have done, and it's worked. And I don't disagree with that. I keep saying, that is not, it's not the wrong way. But you failing, if you want something more and you failing to accept that there's another way that might make you happier, and you failing to try that new way because, it's aside from what you're doing now, or you don't think you can do both to experiment a little bit, like, that is you being stuck in the Matrix. So the international business example, right? You want to do international business, you want to but you don't know exactly the job position you want to do. You just want to get the job that gets you an international business after college, because that's what we're told happens, right? You just show up to college and then you graduate, and then whatever your degree says, you can just go wave that in front of somebody at a big corporation, and they're going to be like, yes, here you go. Here's this job. Even though you don't know what job you're looking for, you magically found it, and now you're going to work 40 hours a week and make $60,000 a year, $80,000 a year. And then after you pay off all your college debt, back to the government. And then after you work this internship for free for 2 years, you can then make enough money to buy a house, start a family, and live your life. And I know you're 30 now, or like you're like 35 now, but you know, you have about half your life left to enjoy it. So if that didn't just give you the chills, or on the international business side, you could say, I want to do international business, so I'm going to create a product or a service, or I'm going to find a way to provide value to somebody in a business way, because all business is an exchange of value. And I'm going to put it in front of somebody in Bali, in China, in Europe, in like South Africa, if that's your thing, or Iceland. And I'm going to exchange value in Iceland or South Africa or Bali or Europe. And I'm going to consistently do that. And now I consistently do international business. Congrats. You did it. You just achieved your dream in, I don't know, dude, take 10 hours and find a service, find people who know how to perform that service, get in touch with them, and then place that service in the right way in front of people to where it provides positive value to them. And somebody will say yes, but you have to ask. You have to be willing to put a little time in getting creative. But everything I just talked about, you think you wouldn't be able to do what I just said before the other scenario, before the, 4 years down the drain and, in an internship for free and doing all that. Like, it's about how you think about it. It's about exposing yourself to people like me who are going to tell you this stuff. And it's not to persuade you in any way. It's to suggest that, hey, maybe you haven't thought that you could do international business this way. Or maybe you haven't thought that a podcast actually could make you a positive living if you're consistent with it and you place it in front of the right people. Maybe you haven't thought about how you exchange value in a positive way, or how you can create value in a positive way and exchange it with somebody, whether that's for money, an experience, or even just a positive relationship. And then consistently do that for like 5 or 10 years and look around, and you'll probably be happier than, you're definitely going to be happier than year 5 at that job that you've only been actually getting paid for the last 4 years. And you're definitely going to be more like you created it, right? That was on you. So either you can create it, and if you're not that type of person, it's totally fine. That's why these jobs exist. That is the matrix exists for, look, I want to live and, I want to kind of pursue what I want, but I'm not really willing to take the risk and see if it'll actually work out or like fail a lot. So I'm just going to do this route. There's no real failure on this route. And that's totally fine. Like I said, certain people need that. Okay. Certain people need that. Do not misconstrue what I'm saying. Certain people need that. That's why it exists. But if you want to talk about my version of the matrix, that is it. That is saying, okay, look, the world is hard and there's all these distractions, and that's, the fast food chains, the shitty food, the toxic tap water, everything that's created by these infrastructures that are built for good, contributing. And that stuff is never going to go anywhere. So I'm not saying like it's like bad, but I'm saying you can't eliminate it from your life. But if you choose not to, just because it's right in front of your face, then you're just buying into it and you're contributing to it. So there's contributing to it, and there's creating a new way and saying, okay, that exists now, kind of like I just went over. How can I make it better? How can I make the environment better? How can I make, the water we drink better? How can I have a positive impact on the world better? Can I get paid for it? Do I love to do it? If the answer is yes to all of those questions, congrats. Please stop overthinking. Okay. Exchange value in a positive way. Find others, or create value in a positive way. Exchange it with others wherever you want. And then do that consistently and create kind of the life you want. Now, I haven't talked about this too much. We got like 5 minutes left, so I don't know if I want to go. I think it's been pretty good. I won't really get into personal relationships. I will say, actually, let's just do this. Okay, what do I look for in a relationship? I'm busy. Like every entrepreneur is always like, oh, like how's your dating life? Like, what do you do? Like, how does it work? So I'm an experience-driven person. Anyone I can get a positive experience with, like we kind of talked about, and like it appreciates my creativity and my open mind are the types of girls I go out with. So like anyone I can hold a real conversation with, those are those are girls I go after. I'm not like, it looks matter to me. I think girls for me, they have to be like, I always look for someone who's in pretty good shape. But that, because to me, someone who's in like pretty good shape is like, they're motivated on something, right? Like they're not to say not like, I don't want to get in trouble here, but to me, if you work out and like even just something, like even if you worked out twice a week, you can tell. And it's just like, those are things that bring positive value to me. I want somebody who looks like has an athletic build or is built, I looks wise, I just look for healthy. It's healthy is the best way to put it. I look for healthy women, right? No, but healthy, motivated, and somebody else who's very like curious, healthy, motivated, and curious. That's kind of how I go about it. If I see that in someone, I'm also very cool with like, I have a lot of high value, and to talk about social circles, I have a lot of high value girlfriends, girls that I may have had an interest in at one point or another, and it may have been mutual, it may have not been, but if that's what got me in the door, I'm not upset that it turned into a friendship. There's nothing wrong with having like attractive friends, like at all. And it's up to you to make, like, whether you make it weird. And the only reason you're making it weird is because you're setting these expectations that haven't come to fruition yet. If you guys consistently, engage with each other and it's always positive and you make each other laugh, and like, those are things I look for. Anyone that could be like my best friend, and you sometimes are like my friend first, like, those are the girls I'm willing to commit a lot of my time to, because reality is my priority is my business. But when I say my business, I really mean like myself. My priority is consistently creating value, and in a positive way, and, doing my art. My art is my business. So like, anyone who interrupts that is not worth my time. And that takes maturity. Even like, I don't just waste time on girls that are going to waste my time. There's a time and a place, right? But like, it's not any consistency. No, I don't waste time with that. I'm not a big like situationship person. It's necessary. Like, it's kind of like, I'm really like all in, or I'm just all out, and I'm cool with being friends with people. And that's totally a fine way to be. It's just, what do I look for? Curious, healthy, motivated, and, willing to like get to know them, right? Like, be like, they're somebody you can be a genuine friend with, or you could, take it a step further. I don't want to date anyone that wouldn't be my friend. And I don't want to say I wouldn't be friends with girls I wouldn't date, but in a sense, that's kind of how it's always played out for me, is I've always been friends with girls that I would be totally like very open, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be very, I know they provide kind of like that value to our group. Like, it's cool. And I've always appreciated that. Like, I want to be around good looking people, like, consistently. It's just who I am. How do I want to be remembered? I asked this one on the podcast a lot, and that's would be a good one to wrap up. Somebody gave me an answer the other day that was like, they want to be remembered as giving more than they took. I like that one, but I would say, I think I'm going to naturally do that. I think even, I think like it's a great way to look at it, but how I want to be remembered personally, I want to be remembered as somebody that created lasting influence. So literally, how do I want to be remembered? As someone that was remembered. I know that sounds crazy, but lasting influence, which means something I say now, somebody will say to their son or daughter, and they'll say it to their son or daughter, and it'll just continue to flow. And that's why I love content. That's why I love creating. That's why I've taken more of a priority on the podcast, was I was like, look, I am learning these things that could help a lot of people, but I could create a business that lasts beyond when I leave, but I don't want to set that expectation for the business. It's never been something that's been like, I have to have it, right? But the impact the business has, or the impact that I'm able to give because of the experience of the business, because of the experience of creating, I want to be remembered as somebody that consistently did that, and that, left a legacy, as my dad used to say, when he coached our baseball team, was leave a legacy, right? And that's how I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered as somebody that left a legacy, that multiple people can say, oh yeah, like that Jack Hayes kid, he said something to me one day. If I could do that to everyone I impact, like and it really changed my life. And then they used that advice to change someone else's life. Like I grew my influence by talking to one person, by putting myself out there to 15 billion people on YouTube, 4 billion people on Facebook, and 1 billion people on TikTok. And yeah, that's how I want to be remembered. So I think this is a good wrap up, a good hour. I hope everyone got to know me a little bit. I didn't really go over my dream guest, but I'll talk about him right now. First one is Arlen, obviously huge influence on kind of how everything has really started to transpire for me, and like showing me how possible it is to have a very positive social circle, and that it was totally normal to feel the way I was feeling about, how I felt my life was going as far as business and, coming out of college, what my friends looked like. I'd been going through some stuff where it's just like, I had friends that like had kind of ghosted me, and I didn't really understand why. I like watching Arlen's content really put it in perspective. Like, look, dude, there are those winners out there. And when you start creating value, you're going to start attracting those people. And like, I knew that, but it was that reminder. So I'd love to pick his brain about it. He also talks about looking at business as an art form, which I've always respected. So Arlen, hopefully if you listen to this, you see this clip, I'd love to get you on. Mike, formerly known as Mike Stud, an independent artist from Rhode Island, actually. From Rhode Island. And Mike because he's an independent artist, I've always seen the entrepreneur in him. You have to self-promote. He always was like, never wanted to sign with a record label. Never really he saw the industry for what it was. And now he's created a podcast to talk about that. And like other people coming up, like this is the reality of becoming a pop star. Right. And he just went through this whole transition where he was Mike Stud for the first 8 years of his career. And the reason his music career started was because, he was a baseball player, kind of similar to where I felt with running. Like he was this great baseball player. He played at Duke. He was an all conference freshman or all ACC freshman, closer, through like mid 90s, like had a nasty breaking pitch. And then he tore his rotator cuff, and, he's in the hospital, not tore his rotator. He got Tommy John surgery, and, Tommy John surgery is in the elbow, happens to a lot of pitchers. And he was in the hospital. When he came back, he rehabbed it. And then like on day 2 or something of like the year he was out for a year. And so year 3, he had came back, and then it happened again. And it was like, now his dream of going to the majors just took another hit, and, he started making music, and now, he's had that whole experience. So I'd love to talk to him about that involvement, kind of how it's just so okay to pay attention to the signs the universe is trying to tell you, and what the positive things that can happen when you go all in with that. Third guy on here, Adam 22, hosts the No Jumper podcast. I think he's really underrated in how he's able to. People are not going to agree with how he makes a lot of his money, but you can't deny that what he started with No Jumper, it contributed to his new ventures now. And all he did for his new ventures was follow his interest. And you kind of there's nothing wrong with that at all. So if you're interested, adult talent, and that's how you make your money and promoting those people, it's totally fine. You have every fucking right to do that. But No Jumper started, his knowledge on the social media game and how to really grow a brand. The fact that he interviews people like the SoundCloud rappers you've never heard of, people he finds interesting, kind of how I do this, that he wants to connect with and showcase. That's how he does it. And he's also a hustler. He does 7-8 episodes a week. So I've always respected that. Adam 22, love to have you on. Fourth guy, Kyle Forgard, owner of Nelk, Full Send, and Happy Dad. This is a kid that watched Nelk since I was 16 in high school, and just watching them evolve from watching him build this brand, he was doing what he loved, right? He talks about how he loved, video production, and was always in kind of the theater side of things, not theater, but the video side of things, production side of things in high school, in Canada. And now and then he started a YouTube channel. They started filming pranks and stuff like that, just funny stuff. And he always says it was stuff that he wanted to film stuff that he thought was funny. And they hustled, man. They're the perfect epitome of going hard. When I talk about 5-10, your favorite overnight successes took 5-10 years of like doing the right thing. Those are the guys I'm always thinking about. It's Nelk, it's Kyle, it's the fact that they went so hard from, like 17 to 22 and still now, but just what it's turned into, right? It put them in, they created an audience and they leveraged that audience. They launched like what's probably like going to be the number one alcohol brand here pretty soon. Then they launched a podcast that has been interviewing all these people that they were able to be exposed to because of their YouTube channel. And that's like the number 2 podcast in the world right now. So like that, I just would love to pick his brain about. And Kyle is like the valedictorian of his high school. So everyone thinks they're just like these like dropouts that, didn't go to college and like got lucky. Like, no, these guys grinded and they were smart motherfuckers. And Kyle Forgard is one smart motherfucker. So Kyle, would love to have you on. Don't want to call it honorable mention. I just didn't put him on the list. Iman Gadzhi just fits exactly what we're talking about here. I've been watching him since I was 16, 17. And he's another guy, just crazy cool story. Long story short, social media marketing agency, running Facebook ads for major brands, made a success and then built a platform around it. And then the money buys happiness, guys. The MBH podcast, Ernesto and Anthony. I would love to pick their brains. I know they're in Miami, so I will clip this. Hopefully you guys will see it. But Money Buys Happiness, what a freaking awesome podcast. They interview people with money and they ask them at the end of every show, do you think money buys happiness? And hearing that perspective from super, super successful people is always so interesting because they're going to tell you straight up, like, yes or no, or like that's what they always say. Like you have to have a straight answer. For me to answer that question, does money buy happiness? Yes. Do you need it for happiness? No. Right. So like, is money your crutch? Is there like, do I think you should be? Some people think the opposite of this. That's totally fine. Do I think you should be dependent on? Do you need to be dependent on money to make you happy? No. So that's why, like, does money buy happiness? It does. It can. But it also can't. So it's like, yeah, does money buy happiness? Yes. Should you be dependent? Is happiness dependent on money? No. So it kind of depends on, I don't know where they're going with the question, but that's kind of like my answer. And I know it sounds like it's kind of both, but pure answer, if they ask me that, I would say money does buy happiness because it does. But do you need it as a crutch? No, you do not. 100% disagree. Yeah, this wraps it up, man. Hour and 10 minutes. I hope you stayed for the whole thing. Obviously, I'm going to cut it into different parts that I think were super valuable, so everyone will see the full podcast at one point or another. And stay tuned, man. I'm really excited to see where this all goes.